A black woman was told to leave. "You're not invited," the waiter said. Moments later, her billionaire boyfriend walked in and made everyone regret it. This is Moral Mirror. Subscribe now for more real stories that reveal the truth behind the glam. The night was warm, the sky lit with Manhattan skyline, and Amara Davis arrived right on time. She had been looking forward to this event for weeks. A prestigious luxury gala held on the rooftop of a five-star hotel, organized by one of the world's biggest designer brands. The air buzzed with the energy of fame and fortune. Influencers, CEOs, and creatives all brushing shoulders in high fashion. Amara stood tall, her emerald gown catching the lights beautifully. Her hair was styled in soft curls pinned to one side, and her gold earrings shimmered as she walked. But the real elegance came from her confidence. She wasn't there to prove anything. She belonged. As she approached the check-in table, a woman in a tight black dress gave her a once-over before glancing at the iPad in her hand. Amara smiled politely and said, "Amara Davis. I RSVP'd weeks ago." The hostess scrolled. Then again, a pause. "Sorry, you're not on the list," she said flatly. Amara leaned in. "I was invited by Sophia Denari. I confirmed it personally with her assistant." The hostess didn't budge. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside." Before she could respond, a waiter stepped up, clearly having overheard the tension. And then came the words that would sting more than any public insult. "You should leave. No one here invited you." There it was, loud enough to be humiliating, sharp enough to pierce right through Amara's chest. A few guests turned to look. Some whispered. Others just smirked. Amara froze. Her eyes scanned the rooftop. White gowns, silver suits, diamonds. Not another black woman in sight. It wasn't the first time she felt othered in these circles. But tonight was different. Tonight, she had earned her place. She had built a thriving wellness tech startup from scratch, a brand now used by millions across North America. She wasn't a plus one. She was a powerhouse in her own right. She reached for her phone to pull up the confirmation email. The hostess didn't care. The waiter had already turned his back. The message was clear. "You don't belong here." Amara could have walked out, swallowed her pride, and cried in the elevator. But something inside her said no, not this time. Because what they didn't know, she wasn't alone. Her boyfriend, Lucas Moretti, a 34-year-old billionaire, one of the youngest and most influential names in the tech world, was on his way. And he didn't take disrespect lightly, especially not when it was aimed at the woman he loved. Amara stepped aside, composed herself, and waited. She wasn't going anywhere. Amara stood silently near the velvet rope, watching as other guests flowed in with ease. Some didn't even give their names. The staff smiled at them, even laughed. They were welcomed with champagne, compliments, and perfect politeness. But her, she stood alone, on display, ignored. And then came the whisper. One of the event planners, a slim woman with a high bun and a clipboard, walked over to the hostess. She didn't even glance at Amara. She leaned in and whispered something. The hostess smirked. She already tried. "I told her she's not on the list," she said quietly. But not quietly enough. Amara heard every word. And when the planner looked over, just briefly, it wasn't curiosity in her eyes. It was something colder, dismissive, as if to say, "Why is she still here?" And just like that, Amara knew this wasn't about a clerical error. It wasn't about missing names or an email that got lost in the spam folder. This was deliberate. She had been erased, carefully, subtly, and with a smile. She checked her email again. It was there, a direct message from Sophia, Denari's assistant. "We're thrilled to have you, Amara. Sophia specifically asked for your name to be added to the guest list. You're confirmed." She could have marched up and demanded to be let in. She could have shouted, caused a scene. But Amara knew better. Because anger, when shown by a black woman, is always judged differently. She knew her silence would speak louder right now. She held her chin high, stepped aside, and waited. You see, Amara wasn't just successful. She was strategic. She had built her company from the ground up, faced rejection after rejection, and still pushed forward. She had sat through rooms where people ignored her, interrupted her, even tried to claim her ideas. But she never folded, and she wasn't going to fold now. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. The rooftop was full now. The night air smelled of expensive perfume and champagne. People glanced her way occasionally, some with confusion, others with quiet amusement. And that waiter, the one who told her to leave, he passed by again, glanced at her. No apology, just the same dismissive look, like she was invisible. But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Amara wasn't invisible. In fact, her presence was about to cause a shift none of them could have predicted. Because in that very moment, a sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up to the entrance. Doors opened. Flashes from cameras lit the night. Lucas Moretti had arrived, and he wasn't smiling. The crowd outside murmured as the black Rolls-Royce slowed to a stop. Valets rushed into position. Cameras turned. Flashbulbs popped. Everyone recognized the man stepping out, Lucas Moretti. Billionaire. Tech genius. Media darling. The youngest self-made billionaire in Europe, now expanding his empire into the U.S. market. He was tall, sharp-suited in classic Italian tailoring, and completely unbothered by the attention. But as he stepped out of the car, something was different. His stride was quick, his face tight with concern. He scanned the rooftop entrance and saw her. Amara, standing alone, just past the velvet rope, her arms crossed calmly, too calmly. Lucas knew that look. The stillness wasn't peace. It was controlled fury, the kind you hold on to when the world expects you to break. He walked up fast, bypassing security like he owned the building because in some ways he could have. And the moment the event staff saw him, their entire energy changed. Panic, posture, politeness. Suddenly, everyone was standing straighter. Amara, he said softly. What happened? She kept her voice low, measured. They said I'm not on the list. The hostess didn't even check properly. And then a waiter told me to leave. Loudly, Lucas turned slowly to face the hostess, who now looked like she wanted the earth to swallow her whole. Why was my girlfriend turned away? He asked flatly. The hostess stumbled over her words. We didn't know she was with you, sir. Her name wasn't appearing, and She wasn't with me, Lucas interrupted. She was invited. On her own. She's a respected founder. A Forbes 30 under 30. Her app was just acquired by a Fortune 500. She earned her place here. Silence. One of the brand's lead event coordinators came jogging over, fake smile plastered across her face. Mr. Moretti, huge honor to have you here. I'm so sorry for the confusion. I'm sure this was just a... Don't, he said sharply. Don't insult our intelligence by pretending this was a mistake. You made her stand out here while other guests waltzed in without checking IDs. Then Lucas turned to Amara and held out his hand. Let's go, he said. Inside, she asked. He shook his head. No. Home. You're not begging for space in a room you already earned. And with that, they left. Together. Proud. Dignified. But not before a few guests. Ones who had seen everything began to follow. Influencers. Journalists. Even a couple of board members. Because they didn't want to be associated with that kind of event either. And just like that, the air shifted again. This time, not in Amara's direction. This time, the tension followed the people left behind, the ones still standing under the golden lights, realizing the real power had just walked out the door. As Lucas and Amara stepped into their car, cameras still flashing behind them, the energy on that rooftop began to shift rapidly. Whispers turned into murmurs. Murmurs into awkward glances. Suddenly, it wasn't Amara being stared at. It was them. The hostess. The planner. The waiter. Because in that moment, everyone watching knew exactly what had just happened. They hadn't just turned away a guest. They hadn't just embarrassed a woman. They had tried to erase a black woman from a room she rightfully belonged in. And in doing so, they exposed the quiet elitism no one ever talks about in public. The hostess was now refreshing her guest list like her life depended on it. The event manager was on the phone, whispering frantically to someone above her. The waiter? Nowhere to be seen. And inside the party, the tension grew louder than the music. One of the board members, a sharp, middle-aged woman with decades in luxury branding, leaned over to a junior executive and said quietly, Did they really just turn away Lucas Moretti's girlfriend? The executive nodded. She's not just his girlfriend. She's the CEO of Mind and Body, that wellness app that tripled its revenue last year. A pause. She was one of our invitees. Phones started buzzing. DMs were flying. People were Googling Amara's name under the table. Suddenly, her Instagram, LinkedIn, and press coverage were popping up like wildfire. And then the worst thing that could happen at a PR-heavy event happened. A journalist live tweeted the whole incident. Lucas Moretti's black girlfriend was denied entry at a luxury rooftop event she was actually invited to. Hostess said no one invited her. She walked away with Lucas. And now half the VIPs are leaving too. Thousands of retweets within an hour. Screenshots, quotes, video clips from guests. People filming the moment Lucas arrived and calmly, confidently put the entire establishment in its place, without ever raising his voice. The event organizers tried to spin it. Unfortunate mix-up, they said. They reached out with apologies. Offered VIP dinners, partnerships, anything they could. But for Amara, it wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. She didn't need their sorry. She didn't need their late invitations. She needed the world to see what happens every single day when powerful black women are disrespected, unseen, and pushed aside. But this time, the world didn't look away. Amara didn't post anything. She didn't tweet. She didn't issue a statement. She didn't have to, because the truth had already made its way through every corner of that rooftop and beyond. What started as a quiet humiliation turned into a loud reckoning. And all she had to do was stand tall, hold her dignity, and let the world watch what respect looks like under pressure. A few days later, the event was covered by multiple online outlets. Not because it was glamorous, but because of what it exposed, how a successful black woman could still be questioned, doubted, and humiliated, even with the right name, the right outfit, the right status. And how the people doing the judging never expected to be judged back. The luxury brand's public relations team scrambled. They reached out to Amara. They offered private apologies, free campaigns, exclusive deals. One brand rep even emailed her a personal message beginning with, "We deeply admire your resilience." It wasn't resilience they admired. It was regret. Regret that they picked the wrong woman to disrespect and that the world had seen it. But Amara didn't take their offers. Instead, she donated the equivalent of the brand's gift package value to a fund supporting black women entrepreneurs. Quietly. No press release. Lucas, too, stayed silent publicly. He didn't need to defend her online. He already did what mattered most. He believed her, stood beside her, and walked away from people who didn't deserve her presence. And that, in the end, was the real power move. Because the biggest clapback wasn't noise, it was absence. The rooms that once tried to exclude her now scrambled to bring her back. But she had already moved forward. She was now being invited to panels, interviews, leadership roundtables. Not because of Lucas, but because of who she was before anyone even knew her name. Sometimes, dignity makes more impact than drama. Sometimes, the quiet exit echoes louder than the loudest entrance. And sometimes, when you try to erase a black woman, you end up erasing your own reputation instead. This is Moral Mirror. If this story opened your eyes or moved your heart, back-end index pointing right, don't forget to subscribe. Thumbs up like the video, and keep reflecting with us, because the truth deserves a voice.